Good afternoon, folks. My name's John Sheeran. I work with Asset Science, and I have my colleague here, Don Riley. I forget things, so I wrote it down. But honestly, I'm not going to read it through verbatim. And Don's going to do his best to interrupt me as we go through. And I'm going to do my very best to talk slowly, because the faster I talk, the less likely you are to understand me, based on the accent. And if I could get someone to bring me a Guinness, that would make life a whole lot easier. So we're going to talk about exploding diagnostics. I've been in this industry for probably about 20 years. You can tell my accent's not American. It's not Canadian either, which is where I live. It's Scottish, and I started off in the industry in Scotland in Motorola. Then I spent a prison sentence in Blackberry, is what I call it. I was there for 14 years, and I did many different things in the industry. The latter part of it, I really focused on the repair aspect of it and how we're wasting money in this industry, and I really have a goal and an ambition on how we take that cost out and how we put power back to people. And before we jump right into it, I'm going to let Don talk a little bit about himself, and let's see if we can get through this without cutting each other off.
That's right. Folks, thanks for coming out today. My experience in the industry, I've been in the industry for about 25 years. I started out in wholesale distribution, moved to the carrier space. I've worked in satellite. I've worked for each of the major US carriers, either as a vendor or a client or as an employee. I came into reverse repair probably 5 years ago through the insurance side, and then have been working in factories in China with reverse parts and primarily LCM repair, things of that sort. But I come from this primarily as a supply chain person. How do we extract value as you go through the supply chain? And one of my passions is, I live with the challenge of, hey, we need this part. How can you guarantee that it's actually OEM? And building that confidence and that trust with our clients is really probably the biggest thing that, it's the one thing that nobody really is sure of until you actually crack a phone open and know what you bought. So we'll talk a little bit about that today, and hopefully we give you some insights and ideas on how we want to approach that. Very good.
I'm going to start off talking about customers. Today, I think customers are much slower to upgrade their phones than they were in the past. Everybody's got this kind of paranoia about where they are with their phone. They think they've got something wrong with their phone, but it's been woven into the fabric of people's lives, right? And I mean, everybody's got a smartphone or some kind of device. Some people have two. They're so panicky that if one fails, what am I going to do? And I'm going to tell some stories as I go through in terms of how I see this and how I would like to change it. I remember when I was a kid, so I'm going to go back to when I was a young kid many, many years ago, and we had our first phone in the house, and it was a shared phone. So either we used it or the neighbour used it. And now we get to the stage where people don't want to share their phone. We've got so much private data on it. Someone says, can I borrow your cell phone? Everybody's kind of like, what for? Why do you want my phone? What are you going to look at? And we're all scared about this security. It's like someone's going to steal our very fabric. And just to kind of get to where that is and how people are attached to their cell phones, a year ago, October last year, I was walking into Toronto Airport. I was going on a business trip, and a lady, I'm going to say it kind of accosted me as I walked in the door. And she seemed like she was in a real panic. And I said, okay, can I help you? And she said, can I borrow your phone? And of course, like everyone else, I'm saying, I don't know about this. So I said, sure, is there a problem? She said, yeah, I left my iPhone in the car or at the house. I said, okay, it's not the end of the world, but sure, you can use my phone. She said, I'm not getting on the flight until I get my phone. And I was really quite astounded by this, because years ago I would look at it and I would think, if I left the house without my wallet, I would go back and get it. Today, if people leave their wallet, they don't care. But if you leave your phone, people are going to go back and get their phone. So we've really become attached to these phones and they've been woven into the fabric of our life. Excuse me. So people want to know what's wrong with them. When something's going wrong, people want to know what's wrong with them. We have so much dependency on it, right? We pay our bills through them. We're on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. And I keep looking around right now to see who's using their phone. It's okay, I know her. She's just... But I mean, the reality of it is, if you're on a conference call or you're talking to your kids or you're at the dinner table or you're at the school sports, you look around you, people are on their phone, right? And I mean, I could be on my phone right now. I could stand here and I could be on my phone. And I'm so worried that I'm going to miss things out there in the world that I'm not even interacting with the people in front of us. And that's the society that we've created today, right? And I'm not saying it's a bad society. We've all got our phones. But what I do say is that our future society is actually today's society. So if you walk around the schools, if you walk around the playgrounds, if you walk around the malls, all the kids have smartphones. Every single one of them has a smartphone. And if you try and take that smartphone off them, they don't want to part with it. I have a 7-year-old. I have older kids as well. I would never try and dare take the phones off the older kids. But the 7-year-old, she's always trying to get my phone and play on it. I would say that we use it as an education factor now, but when I was a kid, it was a punishment. You get something taken off you. And that's how I treat my kid. I say, okay, that's your punishment. I'm going to take the phone off you. You're not getting to play with it. So I think the customer's evolving, and they're looking for instant gratification, right? So we have fast food. Everybody knows about fast food. Personally, I don't eat fast food. But everybody wants that instant gratification. So when your phone breaks down, people want it fixed, and they want it fixed now. And guess what? You don't want to part with it, right? They want a solution there and then. I remember back in the days when I was doing reverse logistics, and I would be talking to people about what the turnaround time was. How long does it take to get a phone repaired? And we would all sit around a table and we would negotiate this, and at the end it would say, okay, 5 days turnaround time or tap, that's okay. And I would just kind of look around the room, and then I would reach over the table and I start taking everybody's phones off them. And they would all look at me as if I had horns growing out of my head or something. And they would say, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'll give it back in 5 days. And they would say, no, I can't do it without my phone for 5 days. And I said, so why would all our customers do it without their phone for 5 days? Why is that acceptable? Right? So we're all in this industry, and I ask you all, who is the customer? Is it your mum, your dad, your aunt, your uncle, your granny that doesn't really know how to do it, but she knows she should have a smartphone? My answer, we are the customer. Every single one of us here has a phone. I'd be surprised if we don't, but we are that customer. And we, in the industry, expect the instant gratification. Why should we not give that to our customers? Why should we not allow them to understand what it is that's going wrong with their phone? So, I mean, I don't think we're all really diagnostic experts, but I do think that we've made it overcomplicated, right? I really think we can simplify this, and we can give people the tools that they need to be able to do these diagnostics and understand the phone. So I spent a lot of time looking at no fault found and the returns in the industry. There's a lot of money being wasted. I don't know exactly what the numbers are now, but about 4 or 5 years ago when I was dealing with this, to take a phone back that is no fault found and refurb it to like new was around $150. I think it's about $200 now. That's what it costs this industry. And for the most part, it's down to education. People don't know what to do. They don't know what's wrong, and they don't know how to get that instant gratification. So what do we do as an industry? We take their phone off them and we say, we'll come back to you in 5 or 6 days or 10 days. We don't say, what I'm trying to get to is, we need to do what we say and say what we do. And I don't believe today as an industry we do that. I think what we do is we make up the rules as we go along, and we say, okay, we're going to take it back and we're going to try and figure it out. And my ambition and my team's ambition is, how do we change that? How do we give the power back to the customers? How do we put the power back in the customer? You and I like that power, but we are the customer. We might be in the industry, but we are the customer. And if we look at some of the other industries, so if we don't adapt, we disappear, right? And there's examples of that, right? When was the last time anyone went to a travel agent? Right? I did last year because I was going to Iceland, and I didn't know how to book a trip to Iceland. So my wife said, go to your travel agent. And I said, I don't even know if they exist anymore, right? Because the high street travel agent is gone. We do it all online. We want that instant gratification. How many people have a landline now? Do people here even know what a landline is? Right? My kids think I'm funny because I still have a phone in the house. They're just like, Dad, get with the program here. It's the 21st century. You don't need that other phone. I'm going to pass over to Don and take a breath, and Don's going to talk about our industry.
Okay, and I thought I'd have to push him off the stage to get a word in edgewise. So, talking about instant gratification, the lovely couple behind us is, think about the industry from the travel industry perspective. 20 years ago, you went to a travel agent. You sat down, you did your planning, you might compare with a couple of different people. Now you go online, you go to Priceline, Expedia, bunch of, Trivago, whatever. You've got a multitude of decisions to make, but you can make it from your own home. And what customers have gotten used to now is the ubiquity of information that comes through the internet, but also the instantaneous gratification that you get from making that decision. But more importantly, they have control over the transaction. They decide how they're going to spend their time. John talked a little bit about going back to 20 years ago. Hey, we've got insurance, and I worked for the carrier at that point in time. And the argument was, well, you come to the store, you give us your broken phone, we'll send it to the insurance company, and you come back to the store in 3 days. Maybe 5 if they get back to us in time. Nowadays, because of data security, because of the relationship you have with your phone, because of the fact that I've got a conference call in 30 minutes, you now have insurance companies offering same-unit repair. I recently worked on a program for a major carrier or insurance carrier where they're doing same-unit repair. They're literally sending people out in trucks with LCMs to fix a client's phone. And you can have it in an hour. Now, if there are other problems, they've got some challenges with triage and diagnostics, and we're working to address that. But the idea here is that the consumer wants the product now as they speak. They can't be without it. It is your wallet. It is your planning tool. I recently, first time I went to see John a couple months ago, I drove up to Montreal and, coming from the States side, everything worked. I had network. I went under La Chienne Canal and I came up on the other side of a tunnel. There was no network. I'd lost my network connectivity because I was on a US carrier. I didn't have international calling because, gosh, it's Canada. It's not an international country. But I didn't have GPS. Well, I had GPS in the car, so that was my backup. But I literally pulled over about a mile from where I was supposed to be and asked somebody, hey, how do I get to this address? So they pulled their phone out of the pocket and said, oh, here it is. It's about 8 minutes this way to walk. You're right there. So, they didn't pull out a map. They pulled out their phone. And so there is a certain amount of ubiquity, and you already know this. But the big issue here is that, once again, people want that information immediately. We talk about Amazon one-click. Everybody's trained. John and I were talking about this presentation. It's like, hey, with Amazon 20 years ago, 10 years ago, you'd place an order and you'd get it in a couple of days. Now with Prime and one-click, you place an order with one button. It'll ship to you in less than 24 hours. And John's like, oh, I went camping and I ordered a book and I got it before Friday. I'm like, well, why did you order a book? Why didn't you download it to your phone? Because I'd sit around the campfire and watch I'll stream my videos while I'm camping. I download it and I've got it electronically, and I'm willing to pay $10 or $15 for that flexibility. And so it's really good from that perspective, but that's what we're training our kids and the next generations as far as expectation sets go. So the big thing here is, how do we get to that? Because in the industry, we make decisions from a supply chain or a cost perspective, which is, hey, what's cheapest for us to do as a supplier? How can we save money? How can we improve our profitability? But we're forgetting that the customer sat issue, the customer experience, is what everybody wants. And really, we're in business to help the carriers generate minutes. Beyond that, everybody in the reverse logistics supply chain, that's really the reason that we have this industry as it's set up today. So the big thing here is, how many of you done this when you dropped your phone or it's gone blank? My daughter does it all the time. I get a call, my phone doesn't work. And it's like, well, hold on, what's going on here? Well, I can't send or receive a text. I need a new phone. It's like, you still have 6 months on the contract on that one. The new one's $800 and you're paying for it. And, well, I can't afford that. Well, let's look at the problem with the phone. What are the problems with phone triage? Most of the time, first thing is network. Do I have network coverage? Second thing is, do I have available memory? Third thing is, do I have power? Am I getting low on battery? Beyond that, it's the number of applications. Who has an aging parent who's got their first smartphone? I can't make or receive a call. I can't take photos. Well, you've got 1,000 apps open on the phone right now. Let's close some of those and you can work. There's a lack of knowledge in the industry. And the bigger thing is, for us, how we define success at Asset Science is, how do we avoid disruption? How do we keep the customer connected at all point in times? That feeds everybody up the value chain. So that's what we're really looking to do here by exploding diagnostics.
I'm going to jump in there and start talking about remote diagnostics, right? I think remote diagnostics are dawning, right? And I think we need to get to a situation where we have a first touch solution. And by first touch solution, I don't mean that people need to be able to walk into a store or phone up and say, okay, my phone's broken, and we fix it there and then. If there's a real problem, we can't often fix it there and then. There's two things we can do. We can start educating people. We can give them the tools, right? We can put the power in people's hands, right? Often people talk about knowledge is power, right? And I hear that all the time. I've heard it all through my career, knowledge is power. But I always add a part onto that. It's only power if you share it. If we keep it to ourselves, there's no power in it, because what you're doing with it, you're holding it to yourself. So in my book, I would like to give the knowledge is power out there, right? I would like to put the power in people's hands. I get frustrated, right? I've had I don't have a lot of tolerance for bad customer service. I can deal with stuff that happens, like last night being diverted to San Jose for 4 hours because of the thunderstorms, out with my control. I can accept that because I can't affect it. But if I can affect it, I want to change it. And one of the things I want to change in this industry is I want to put the power back into the customer's hands. And the way we can do that is through remote diagnostics, whether it's us or someone else, but I really believe in putting the power back in the customer's hands. If we have the customer empowerment, they're going to know, right? If you can talk them through it, it doesn't have to be complicated, right? Smartphones are a complicated piece of equipment, right? There's lots of radios in it, there's lots of technology in it, but the user interface does not have to be complicated. And the same applies to the diagnostic aspect of that user interface. You don't need a rocket scientist to tell you if your speaker's working or not. You just need to be able to test it the way you want to test it to figure out if the speaker's working or not. And I think often there's a case of education rather than the phone's actually broken, right? And that's a lot of what I've done in the last probably 5 to 10 years of my career, is try to educate people, try to teach people that it's not as complicated as you think. And yes, it's really quite daunting when people start talking about Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and GPS and the radio, and people are like, I don't even know what that means. But to me, smartphones are really simple. They power up, they transmit, and they receive. And then there's a whole bunch of user interaction that goes in with that. But let's take that aside in terms of giving the user power. Let's talk about our part of the industry, right? Let's talk about the cost and the aggravation that's in this industry. How much does it cost to have all these devices come back? How much does it cost people to lose time, right? You can't buy time, right? Time is what it is. You can't buy it, but you can help people through that kind of thing. And we can take the cost out of the industry by doing that, right? We suffer a lot of cost and a lot of aggravation. And that's why I think there's so much aggravation. We've made it so difficult for people to do this. If we give the power back to the customer, if we teach them how to do this, imagine something goes wrong. I did it a few weeks ago. I had a power tool and the battery went faulty. And I had to go 4 different steps to find out how to fix that. And it was really aggravating because I kept getting the wrong information. Imagine you have something wrong with your phone and you either walk into the store and you call up and you're able just to walk through a diagnosis and understand not only if your phone's broken or not, but what do you need to do to get back out, walk out working? What steps need to be taken? And that's where I say that we need to do what we say and say what we do. If we say it's going to take 5 days, make it take 5 days or less. But don't make it take 10 days and not tell the customer it's happening. So that's why I think we really need to give the power back to the customer, because as a customer, whether it's in the smartphone industry or any other type of industry, I want that power. I want to know, I want that instant gratification. If I went to McDonald's, which I don't do, but if I went to McDonald's and went up to the fast food window and ordered the food for my daughter, because I don't eat it, and they said to me, sure, it's going to be ready in 20 minutes, can you sit over there? I would probably just say no thanks and drive away. I don't know how we get away with that in this industry. I don't know how people accept that what we do. And I think that we have a false sense of security being in that industry thinking, well, it's okay for us because we know how to do it. I don't think it's okay for us. I really don't think it's okay for us. I think as an industry, we have the knowledge. And I think automation's coming, right? I mean, I think everybody sees that automation's coming. And I put a bit in here to talk about the last text because I really have a bit of an aggravation myself about people using their smartphones when they're driving. Right, so I really have a problem with that. But we can all sit here and say, certainly in my generation, I'll look at it and say, okay, automation's coming, but it's really that far off. But right now we're testing driverless cars, right? So soon you're not going to have to get booked for having that last text on the phone because you have driverless cars. That automation is coming. Why can't we have that in our industry? Why can't we why can't we be the leaders and drive that automation and that customer empowerment and customer satisfaction? And if we do that, I think we're going to take a lot of the cost out of the industry. Because right now we're suffering a lot of cost and we're all trying to figure out how to make our factories more efficient, how to take the cost out. But to me, the truth of the matter is a lot of the things that are coming back we don't need to deal with. And we're losing billions of dollars every year in this industry by not being smart about how we deal with this. And I think we have to change it. If we do, guess who wins? We all win. The customer wins for sure. The carrier wins. The OEM wins. The resellers win. The insurance companies win because they're not getting all this churn back. They're not losing money. They're not losing people. And they're not just as good or as bad as the last customer experience. That's how I see it. So we need to improve customer satisfaction across this industry. And I'm going to hand over to Don to talk about customer satisfaction and how we deal with that.
First question, just how many people do cell phone repair in the audience here today? Just a quick show of hands. So depending on who I talk to, the first thing you hear about, and this is kind of extend John's discussion on cost, the first thing I hear from most repair shops or small factories or repair depots is, I need to reduce cycle time. I need automation to reduce my costs because my labor costs are killing me. That's all well and good. That's a test cycle time. But what we're really talking about here is by helping the consumer, where the real cost is when the consumer has a working phone and they don't know that it works. They think it's something in the phone when it's something outside the phone. And so they come back. 40% of most phones coming back to any repair facility are no fault found. They work. The challenge you've got there is you go through your test protocols and it works. But how do you replicate that? What's the customer do? What are they doing for them to have the perception that it doesn't work? So for us, the biggest cost you want to drive out is at the first touch. When the consumer identifies they've got a problem, why isn't this device operating for me? How do we help them understand that, wow, your phone does work. It could be poor network, it could be poor memory. Because once again, and nobody wants to hear that, hey, you're going to have less traffic coming into your stores. You won't. There'll be plenty of traffic. There's always going to be a need for real repair, but you all know when they come into your operations, they're frustrated, they're angry, they're going to have to spend money that they weren't planning on. My favorite story is, hey, I dropped my phone and I broke the glass and I don't have insurance and the phone's 5 hours old. What do I do now? Well, you can go back and get insurance and you can pay $200 on the deductible. You can go to a repair shop and pay for a used or either a refurbished, reclaim, or new piece of glass. Put that in there. But essentially, I've got a brand new phone that's no longer new. That's really hard for the consumer to take. But once again, they're always looking at what's the impact there. And so if we go through that, it really comes down to trust. So John and I both started out as automotive mechanics a million years ago and working on cars and repairing engines. And so we kind of like this because really, I like the dyno car that Catherine picked out. But when you pick a repair facility or a technician, think about it from an automotive perspective. How did you pick your technician? Most of the time it's a reference, word of mouth. You've got experience with them. You build trust with them. That's great if you're a small mom and pop, but we're talking not only the small independent repair shops, but we're talking all the way through the food chain, the companies that are repairing tens of thousands of phones a day and a week. There's always a lack of trust. Why? Because there's a lack of control. How do I know that you're going to fix my phone? One, that you've identified it. One of the sayings I came across coming to this show was, hey, if you had a master technician, would they get behind the driver's seat of the car and make a diagnosis based on looking at the idiot lights in the dashboard? No, most of them have an investment in technology nowadays. They spend tens of thousands of dollars in training and diagnostics tools. And so they are trained master mechanics. We have the same expectation. How do we provide that knowledge and tools to the users in the industry? But what happens when you don't have trust? You come away, hey, I feel like they took me for some money. They maybe did a repair that I didn't ask for. Maybe, how do I know? And one of the things we're looking at in that first touch, if you can do diagnostics across your mobile phone directly as you got it, hey, I know what the problem is. I can go to my technician and have an intelligent discussion. This is broken, this speaker's not working because I've run a test diagnostic. They can run a test diagnostic and validate it. Everybody knows through the value chain what's really going on here and because beyond that, you're always operating in the dark, and that's why you have people irate. It's not so much that they're afraid to spend the money or spend the time, but they just don't know. They don't have the knowledge, and they're relying on you.
So let me jump in there and start talking more about the diagnostics, right? I might ask for a show of hands, but I doubt if anybody's going to do it, right? How many times have you felt that pain in your leg or the pain in your back or something's wrong in your head, and what do? You suddenly become an internet doctor. Right? Everybody wants to be that internet doctor. The difficulty with that is you diagnose yourself a lot worse than your general practitioner doctor does. So you've done your internet study and suddenly you're dying and all you've done is sprained your ankle, right? That's what's happening today in diagnostics, right? Everyone's telling you that they can do diagnostics. And I don't buy into that, right? And I'll tell you why I don't buy into that. I tried it as an OEM, right? That's actually how I came across asset science. But everybody says, this is easy, we can do it, right? You're not going to become a general practitioner or a brain surgeon just because you did a little bit of study on the internet. And it's the same with diagnostics. It needs to be a core functionality. And that's why I think it's so difficult today, because everybody thinks that they can do it. And sure, a lot of people can do it, but I don't think everybody can do it right. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges. So let me ask, again, I would love a show of hands, but if you were to choose, right, if I said to you, okay, there's 5 things in your life and I'm only going to leave you with one, right? how many people would get to the stage where I'm keeping my cell phone, right? Think about it, right? If you're running away from something, if you're the flight or fight mode, right? If you're running away, what's the first thing you're going to do, right? If you're running away from a war-torn country or a fire or something, the first thing you want to do is keep connected, right? In BlackBerry, we always talked about always on, always connected. And one of the things I talk about is keeping people connected, right? I'd like to keep people connected. And again, I like to tell my stories. So here's a real live true story that's not even a week old. I was driving home from work last week and I was parked in a line of traffic that had kind of stopped suddenly. And then the truck decided to park in the back of me and a girl decided to park in her car at the back of the truck. And after everything settled down, and of course I hit the car in front, right? Everything settled down, I pulled off the road. And I got out, and both the guys that had hit and caused the accident were on their cell phones. The lady in the car was injured, and nobody was even paying attention to her. And that, again, going back to my reference earlier on, nobody cares about their surroundings. Everybody's on their smartphone, right? Everybody wants to keep connected, and it's up to us as an industry to see what we can do to keep those people connected. I've lost my page.
I'll jump in.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we recognize is things are changing dramatically in the industry right now. You've got a lot of upheaval, a lot of changes. We're 10 years into smartphones. We've gotten more sophisticated about how we source parts, how we buy parts, how we go through the process. But the reality of the situation is, we're kind of in a change that I would go back to as an analogy of the 1920s to 30s in the automotive industry. When you started out, the first 15 or 20 years, the manufacturers controlled direct sales. And then they set up dealer networks. And then they said, well, no, you can only have a car repaired through the dealer network. That's kind of where we are today. But you see this shift going closer to the customer, which is now you see, based on the expectations the customers have, I need it done now. I want to go to somebody I know and trust. You see a whole growth industry around the smaller repair shops, the franchises, the mom and pops that are developing it out. And that's very similar to what happened in the 30s and 40s, because in the automotive industry, you went from dealer to gas stations got into the business and said, hey, we can make a lot of money. You got cars driving in every day needing gas. We're going to start checking the oil. And then we'll start cleaning the windshields. Well, we might as well do the brakes while we're here. And really, in the United States, it wasn't until the mid-'70s that you had legislation passed that said the warranty's not voided on a car if an independent shop does the maintenance. I mean, the dealers fought for 70 years to make sure that, if you get it repaired anywhere else other than our dealer network, you void the warranty. And legislation had to be passed. It's not that different today. It only took about half the time, 25 years, maybe 30. But now you've got Fair Trade Repair Act in process. You've got people saying, hey, I need to be able to go beyond just the major carriers, the major brands, and the major insurance companies. I want satisfaction now. With that, you get a whole situation where we've commoditized the product. It's an $800 phone. It's got a lot of value. We still treat it like it's a $20 phone. Hey, I'm going to throw it in the bin because I don't want to give it up because I've got a relationship with it. And maybe my new phone doesn't work. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but we don't turn these in. And what you've seen over the last 2 or 3 years with buy your own device, upgrade take rates are a lot slower. You went from every 18 to 24 months on an upgrade on a new phone to 36 months now. What's that mean to us in the industry? Well, I can't buy cores. People are keeping their phones longer. People are buying their phones. All of a sudden it's like, oh, this isn't a $200 subsidized phone that AT&T or Verizon or Sprint or T-Mobile gave us. I just bought an $800 phone at $30 a month for the next 2 years. And so it's got real value to the consumer now. With that, what they're doing is they're going to keep it in their drawer less, and they're going to take it out and say, you know what? I'm going to give that phone to my kid. I need to repair it. Or, yeah, I just broke it, but I just paid it off 2 months ago. I'll take it to a repair shop and get it fixed because I'm going to extend the life cycle. And one of the things that we find is that, the customer, the other part of it is, why didn't consumers give you a phone if you went in for a trade-in or a buyback 2 or 3 years ago? And it's still a hard situation. I could do a buyback phone. Well, I just bought my Motorola Droid 2 years ago for $400. I just looked at a buyback program and they're going to give me $10 for it. If it doesn't have cracked glass, if it powers up, if it does all of these other things. And so you've got that disconnect with the customer again. We're saying, hey, you charged me this much for it 2 years ago, but now you're telling me it's scrap. And that's another reason why people throw the product in the drawers, and that keeps value out of the reverse stream at this point in time. How do we get the consumers to trust us enough to be able to take their phones back and repair them?
So I'm going to jump in on that part on trust, right? Because that's really where I want to get to on this. How do we get the consumers to trust us? For me, the number one is trust them, right? If we trust them, then over time the reciprocal is going to happen and they're going to trust us. So how do we get them to trust us? You've all done it. You've all walked into a store for whatever reason. You say something's wrong with whatever you bought, and the person behind the counter tells you you're wrong. Just flat out, you're wrong. No, don't agree with you, you're wrong. Or it's not under warranty. Yeah, it's in warranty by time, but you caused the problem, therefore you're still going to pay for it. Right? So we've put that out there and said inherently we don't trust our customers, but we still expect our customers to trust us. What I would like to do is change that, right? I would like to put the trust back in the customers. I would like to give them the tools that says, hey, you know what? If there's something wrong with your phone or even your television or your fridge or whatever it is, but it is a kind of change over the whole service industry, not just in the smartphone world, but I think we are a service industry, whatever way you look at it. And I would like to put that trust back in the customers. I, for one, would like that trust that if I walk in and say, my whatever doesn't work, my phone doesn't work, right? I have a speaker problem. And they just look at it and say, no, it's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. And sure enough, they play a sound through the speaker. But then I walk away wondering, okay, what did I do wrong? Why does nobody want to help me? I want to change that. I want to put that trust back in the customer's hand and say, you tell me what's wrong, and I'll work with you to go through what's wrong with that. I will give you the tools so that you can show me what you did. And then 2 things are going to come out of that for me. Well, 3. But the 2 things I'm thinking of is, you're going to have a good customer experience. Even if their phone's not working and they have to put it back in, they have a good customer experience because you've told them what's wrong, you've worked with them, they've understood it, and now if we do our job well, they're going to know exactly what steps they have to take to get back to being connected, right? They can either have a loaner phone or they're going to walk into a store and get the same day repair or same unit repair, but they know what they've got to do, and we've given them that trust by saying, you tell us what's wrong, we'll tell you what you're going to do. If we do that, they're going to start trusting us. And that's really going to change the industry, right? So that gets it 2 ways. And also, if we do that, if we have that education part of it, then we're going to take a lot of cost out of the industry. So in my experience, right, on the OEM side, I've dealt through the whole thing, all the way from manufacturing through R&D and out to the reverse logistics side of it. And the number of times I've talked to people, and it's all about, if you talk about the call centres or if you talk about the stores and people walk in, it's all about, how do I get past this customer and move on to the next person? How do I get my turnaround time? So if I'm in a call centre, I've got to close my case in 15 minutes or whatever it is that the call centres decide. So the focus is not on, how do I help this customer? How do I make their experience better? The focus is on, how do I pass that on to someone else and make it someone else's problem? And I can just keep going and getting my numbers. And it's all numbers driven, right? And I guess we're all out to make money out of it, but we don't have to do it by sacrificing the customer. And I think today we do sacrifice the customer. I think we are the customer, right? But I was joking with Donnie earlier on about the 5-day turnaround time. And it's true in this industry. If you're working in a carrier or an OEM or you have access to smartphones, if your phone breaks, what do? You don't bother dealing with it because you don't want that aggravation. You put it aside, you stick it in a drawer, you go pick up another phone because you have access. Our customers can't do that. They don't have that access. So what I would like to do is turn this around and give that diagnostic solution out there. Maybe ours, maybe other people's, I don't care. I just want to make this work for the customer so that the customer actually gets a good service. And if they walk in and say, I have a problem, somebody actually cares. Instead of just saying, you're a number, I've got 15 minutes to deal with you, and you're gone, and it's somebody else's problem. I like that personal service, and I like to try and give that personal service. Am I perfect? No, absolutely not. But I try every single day to give that good service and treat people as people and value their time. So for me, the biggest thing that you can give them back is their time, right? Because once the minute's gone, it's gone. You can't get it back. You can't, unless someone in here tells me how to go back in time. I've tried. You can tell by the grey hair it's not working, right? So I'm not going back in time. If we can give the customers the time back and actually care about them, I think we can significantly change this industry. I really think we can turn it on its head. And along the way, we're going to save a whole lot of money in the industry. We save the money, we save the time, we've got more time to deal with the customers. So instead of us all taking it into the big black hole, which is what I think most people experience, and then if we go back to the net promoter score that Don was talking about, if you have bad service, you tell everybody. Right? Most people do. Everybody complains about bad service. We're a society of complainers, I think, sometimes. We complain about all the bad things that happen to us. Right? If it's average or if it's kind of verging on the good, we think, well, that was a pretty good experience. I kind of like that. And we might tell our closest friends. If it's exceptional, hopefully they're going to go and tell everybody and say, you know what, you should go there. The service was phenomenal. Sure, my phone was still broken, or this was still broken, or that was still broken. When I explained earlier on about the power tool that I had, that the battery was faulty, when I got to the final person, the fourth person that could help me, I was in and out in 5 minutes. I had already spent 2 hours in the truck going to 3 other different stores trying to figure this out. And I walked in the door and the guy said, oh, you're in about your battery? Yeah, we've had some problems in them. But yeah, that serial number's one of them. I'll have a new one for you tomorrow. And I was delighted. Right? I did spend time telling everybody about the 3 other steps before it and how aggravated I was, but I made sure to talk about that final step and say, you know what, that to me was customer service. That guy could have saved me an hour and 55 minutes of my life if I'd seen him first. And that's what I want to give to our customers, not my customers, our customers. I want to put it back in their hands and give them that power, because I think if we do it sensibly and we do it wisely, I think the customers will use it wisely as well. And I think at the end of that, what will happen is we will become as good or as bad as our last service point, and hopefully that's going to be a good service point. And I think we can all achieve that collectively.
So basically, one of the things that we've talked a lot about customers and customer sat. The other part of the situation, though, is the customers are more sophisticated. They'll go to the internet if they need to do a do-it-themselves diagnostic. They don't come to a shop any longer and ask you what's wrong. They'll Google it. They'll read a forum. They'll get an opinion on what they think is wrong, and then they're going to come and ask you and test you. So they become more sophisticated in meeting their expectations and wanting that instant gratification. But the other thing they're interested in is keeping things out of the waste stream. You know, they're looking for companies with social responsibility, and we've seen it over the last 5 years. Hey, we need to go to R2. We need to develop certification process. We need to develop standards that hold us accountable in the recycling industry to add value in recycle, repair, repurpose product. Because your consumers are asking for that as well. They want it cheap, they want it fast, and they want you to be socially responsible to boot. They want to know what you're doing with the product in the waste stream. So you've got a very sophisticated group of customers, and they know pricing. Let's face it, if I go shopping for something, I might go to a store and try on a pair of shoes, but I can sit right in the store and I'll pull up the internet and I'll shop it. And then I'll go back to the retailer and say, hey, there's an offer here for $20 less. Will you match it? And if they match it, they get my business. If they don't, I walk out of the store. And so, like I said, you've got a very savvy group of customers, but we put this up here because the other thing we need to do is by keeping the product out of the waste stream, we're reducing costs to ourselves and making ourselves more profitable. It seems it's an oxymoron or it's counterintuitive, but if I can make a customer happy, if they walk into my shop or come to my factory or call my call center saying, hey, I want to file a claim, and you can say, no, your phone's working. And we can certify that it's working, and here's what you need to fix your particular problem without coming in. People don't have the time. I don't want to drive to a store. It's a half an hour drive. I'm going to spend 30 or 40 minutes with the technician at the store doing the analysis. They're going to fix it. I'm going to get it back. So if you really want to build a good customer experience, give them the proper diagnostics up front. Give them the proper diagnosis. Help them understand what's really going on there, because that's really what it's about.
So to kind of wrap it up, I'm going to try and give you all a challenge, right? So you're all going to go back out there and wander around and talk to different people in different booths, depending on what they're doing. But to me, it's the service industry. It doesn't really matter what they're doing. Go ask them. Ask them what they're going to do for customer service. Ask them how they're going to give the power to the customer. Ask them how they're going to solve that customer's problem first touch. Ask them how they're going to try and pass that customer on to someone else and not want to deal with the problem. Because if you ask, most of them are not going to have the answer that you're looking for. Certainly not the answer I'm looking for. The answer I'm looking for is, yeah, you're a valued customer and I want to take care of you. Right? So I'll help understand your problem. I'm not always saying the customer's right. Right? The customer's not always right, and I think that's a myth. that people say, well, the customer's always right. The customer's not always right. Sometimes they're wrong and they just need educated. And I think we need to be tough enough to say that and just have that conversation. Most people don't like the difficult conversations. Most people don't do it. And so here's a challenge for you, right? I was a school teacher in the past as well. I never really liked teaching because I taught metalwork and there was kids in the class that were taller than me that had chisels and hammers, and that wasn't very comfortable where I lived in Scotland. So I decided to get out of that. But I'm one of 12 children, right? So I was never really slow at talking to people. I sit in a classroom like this or a place like this and I say, do people have any questions? And I'm going to bet that maybe one or two people might ask questions. But I can pretty much guarantee that if somebody asks a question, 50% in here want to ask that same question. So my question to you all is, who's got the courage to be the guy at the front of the class that sticks their hand up and say, what if or what about? Who's got a question for me? We're done. I can pick on somebody, because a few faces in here I know. Come on, who's got the courage? So who's got the courage to go out then? Here we go.
Hi, I've been hearing all the whole speech you did, and I think the application on the phone, you said I even took notes. Remote diagnostics. If there was an app that people can look up on their phones and somehow have a remote diagnostics, that'd be great. That'd be great. Speaker problem, LCD problem. You were just asking me how to give the power back to the customers. I think that's one, solution. Wouldn't you say?
I absolutely agree with you, and there's two things I'll say on it, right? I'm determined I'm not going to make a pitch for asset science up here, because that's not what I want to do. But I came from BlackBerry, right? I was there for 14 years, and I was really frustrated in BlackBerry. And I think the first application that came out like that is called BlackBerry Virtual Expert, right? And it's still out there today. And I'm still a proud owner of a BlackBerry. It's in my pocket. I still use it. But that application's out there. And there are not just asset science, but there are other people endeavouring to put that out there and give people that power. I'm just up here trying to push it faster because we have apps for everything else. I remember my brother and sister talking about how they could get a supermarket app and understand in any supermarket where they could pick up a jar of strawberry jam. And I was kind of like, that's the best thing you can do with your phone? Come on. I think what you're saying is absolutely valid. I think that's exactly where we need to put the power in people's hands. Be able to walk into the store with confidence and say, look, I tried it on my phone, it doesn't work. You show me how it works and teach me. And if it doesn't, then honour your warranty or explain what went wrong with us. That to me is putting the power back in customers' hands. So I absolutely agree with you. That's exactly what we should be doing.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So other questions? No one's going to stand up and say, I'm going to take a wee step out of my comfort zone and ask.
Can I ask a different question? What's your biggest pain point with your customers right now? What's the problem you're trying to solve? Anyone take a shot at that? Oh, come on, guys.
Okay, I'm not going to kill you guys. We won't kill you if you're not going to ask.
We won't beat you up.
We are available, right? I'm here today, tomorrow, and probably part of Thursday. So if anyone has any questions, or if anyone just wants to come up and say, I think you're full of crap, I'll just probably come back and say, well, if it's no Scottish, it's crap. Okay. I'm sure some people were waiting for that. But I mean, if you don't agree, I'm interested in your opinion. I'm very interested in your opinion. I have strong opinions in terms of how I think we should do this, but I'm interested in other people's opinions, especially people who are in the same kind of industry that I was in, whether you're OEM or you're manufacturing or repairing or reselling. I have a lot of experience in that, and I'm really interested in your opinion. My goal is to make my customer experience better. And when I say my, I mean me. If it's good for me, then I'm hoping it's good for everybody else, because I think I set pretty high standards for myself. So that's my goal, is to make this much, much better for people. I don't like being without my cell phone. I really don't. And I'm betting you guys don't either. If I was to go around this room and say, here's a basket, put your cell phone in, and I'll give you back at the end of the day, I don't think I would get out of the room alive. So, if there's no more questions, I thank you for your time. And if you do, if you want to come and talk one-to-one individually or come by and see us, you're more than welcome. So thank you very much, folks. Thank you.
Thank you.
And folks, just, to answer the question, one of the things we do is, we do ask these questions. Asset Science, we do have solutions. So I'm going to invite you to come by our booth at 1517 and take a look, because we really do talk about, how do we do in-hand solutions for mobile devices through mobile apps, robotic solutions, and then test diagnostic solutions. That's really our passion. That's what we do, and we really thank you for coming out today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.